When I started my career in health and fitness, I quickly learned that for many people, the hardest part of getting fit isn't motivation, it's knowing where to start. People will still ask me some of the same general workout related questions. Questions like, what type of fitness equipment should I get? Should I do cardio or should I lift weights first? What is the best gym to sign up for? And one of my all-time favorites, do I need a personal trainer? And if you found yourself asking these questions, you're not alone. Today, we're tackling these questions and more so you can stop overthinking and start moving. What's up, team? You are now listening to Sweating Out My Edges, the #1 podcast for learning how to build an active lifestyle. My name is Coach Teal, and I'll be your coach in this audible fitness journey. So I have good news and I have bad news. I'll start with the bad news first. The bad news is there is no such thing as get fit quick. Tragic, I know. But it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise to you because, like most noble characteristics, fitness is a discipline, and discipline isn't something that happens overnight, but there is good news. The good news is I'm here to help. Earlier, I mentioned some of the most asked questions I get as a fitness professional, and I want to start with the question I have the easiest answer for, and that question is, what equipment should I use if I'm just starting out on my fitness journey? And my answer is simple, none. You don't need any equipment, and I'm going to explain why. The first thing we learn as fitness professionals is that safety is the #1 priority, always. Exercise in all forms is the definition of literally putting your body under physical stress, whether exercise is planned through workout program or just the typical recreation of daily living like shoveling snow, cutting grass. Exercise is a stress and it can be a dangerous activity. Now, I'm not saying that to invoke fear. I'm saying that because it's my job to make sure you don't do too much, too fast, too soon. So if you have never worked out a day in your life or you haven't been physically active within the past 6 months, my advice is to make body weight workouts your starting point. And there are so many movements you can do to obtain body weight fitness. Squats, pull-up, push-up, lunges. The idea is to get moving good throughout the full range of motion in these core movements with no stressors before we tack on things like dumbbells, barbells to make the movement more difficult. And if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it makes sense. I like to compare the analogy to running. If I've never run before in my life, I wouldn't start with a 5K. I would start with 1 mile. I would see if I can, walk for 60 seconds and then jog for 15 seconds before I can, build up into jogging for a mile without walking. Then maybe 2 miles, then maybe 2 miles in under 25 minutes. You kind of see where I'm going. The goal is to build a practice of progress. That's our real priority. Now, I realize there will be some listeners who say, okay, I'm past that stage. I've been doing my workout videos at home. I'm body weight strong. My stamina's up, but I'm not ready to step into the gym yet, or I prefer to continue working out at home for now. And I want to, use equipment at home. And for those people, this is what I would say. Get 3 pieces of equipment, each targeting a different aspect of fitness. One for strength training, another for aerobic training, and then a third for core training. There are several different types of equipment you can get that fall under each of these categories, but the 3 pieces of equipment I think are superior for each category, and they all fall back under my foundational philosophy of safety as the #1 priority. And I'll start with the strength training equipment. My highest recommendation for strength training equipment is a weighted vest. A weighted vest provides the most ideal opportunity to increase workload without compromising proper technique. The most common threat to safety in strength training is bad form. And if you spend 2, 3, 4 weeks doing body weight movement and learning good form, as soon as you add weights, whether they be through, dumbbells, barbells, mat balls, any flaws in your mobility and technique will show immediately. And the advantage of a weighted vest is that it provides an even distribution of the newly added weight with the least amount of disruption to your movement pattern. In my opinion, the weighted vest is the safest next step if you want to progress your strength training program by increasing your load, especially if you're working out unsupervised. Now, if I had to recommend a second best option for strength training, I would say go resistance bands. Resistance bands can certainly be more difficult and lead to good progress in a workout routine. Sometimes I worry about their tendency to cause subtle, non-ideal changes to your technique that can often encourage muscle imbalances that favor the dominant side, and these changes may not be immediately apparent to a novice athlete. Again, I still think they're a great option, but in an effort to continue to develop bilateral strength on both sides in unison under the same load, the weight vest would be the better option. Now we can move on to aerobic training equipment. This may be my favorite piece of workout equipment of all time. It's honestly the GOAT of workout equipment. My best recommendation for aerobic training equipment is a jump rope. Yes, in the fitness world, the jump rope is the equivalent to the best thing since sliced bread. I don't really have a whole lot to say because if you've jump rope, it is one of the best workouts that you can ever get. It's honestly several workouts in one. It's cardio, it's plyometric, it's strength, it's everything, everywhere, all at once. And if you are one of the few unfortunate souls who has not had the pleasure of jumping rope, baby, let me tell you. You better come up here and get one of these. You better get you one of these. And one of the things I love about jumping rope is that it's easy to control your performance through pace. Music actually, while jumping a rope, can be a good way to guide how long you jump or the pace you jump. A lot of times I like to use jump rope as a warm-up or a workout finisher. So if, let's say I want to jump for 10 minutes, I'll pick 3 or 4 songs I know all the words to. Probably going to be a 2 Chainz song because I know all the lyrics. And it serves as the best distraction. And I just jump until those 3 or 4 songs are over. Another advantage to jump rope is that it can be ideal for people who want to increase their heart rate, but don't want to buy a treadmill and don't want to buy a bike to cycle. So just know the jump rope is undefeated when it comes to aerobic training equipment. If I had to recommend a second best option for aerobic training, I would suggest a walking pad. Walking pads are highly popular right now. If you work from home, it's a great way to support hitting your step count for the day. And it can also be a good option for people who have physical limitations with jumping. It's also much cheaper than an entire treadmill, and it works well with smaller spaces. The last piece of equipment I want to recommend is for core training, and it's another multifunctional piece of equipment. I don't know one person who starts their fitness journey and doesn't envision themselves with a 6-pack of abs. And I'm here to tell you, you can't have 6-pack abs without a little bit of core training. And if I had to have one piece of equipment at home to help develop my core, it would be the one and only stability ball, also known as a Swiss ball or an exercise ball. The great thing about having a stability ball is that, like the jump rope, it can be used to improve several different aspects of fitness. So core, balance, stability, obviously. It gives you a great bang for your buck. And what I would tell people to keep in mind is that the size of your stability ball matters, and it is based on your height. Smaller ball size for shorter individuals, larger ball size for taller individuals. And if you go to purchase a stability ball, there should be a size chart on the packaging to reference. For a while, I remember people were replacing their office chairs with stability balls. I wouldn't go so far as to replace your chair all day with it, especially if you're new to a stability ball, but incorporating it in different ways throughout the day can be a good way to sneak in some core training outside of your usual training time. So sitting on it while you watch TV for a little while at the desk can be a great way to practice engaging your core and improve, your core stability. The next question I want to tackle is, should I start with cardio or should I start with weight training? And it's an interesting question because the underlying assumption when people ask this question, I feel like, is their attempt to discern whether one type of training is better than the other. When the truth is, if you've never worked out a day in your life, the best type of training is the training that gets you moving. The people who see the most success as far as longevity in their fitness are the people who engage in the type of exercise that they like. Because chances are, if I told you to start running and you hate running, you're not gonna wanna run. Part of my job as a fitness professional is to show you there's more than one way to be fit. Now, if you're already engaged in a regular exercise program and you want to know within a planned workout session what's better to start, cardio or weight training, that's a different question. If you're at a stage in your fitness journey where you're doing strength and cardio in the same session, kudos to you, my friend. That is an accomplishment within itself. But if we're going back to the question, if I had to give you an answer about whether to start with cardio or weight training for a single session workout, I would say it honestly depends. Bruh. Generally speaking, strength training should precede cardio for a single session workout, meaning weights and cardio in the same session. However, depending on your goal, the inverse may be appropriate. And I'll give a little explanation. When I design a workout program, the overall fitness goal is going to be the North Star for making decisions on what to do and when to do it. So for example, if my goal is to run a marathon, I know my training priority is going to be running. Now, I am a staunch advocate for cross training in every program, meaning even though I'm training to run, I need to do more than just running because I'll be at a greater risk of overtraining and ultimately injury if I don't. So my training needs to be diverse. It needs to include weights, stretching, other modes of exercise outside of running to support my goal of, becoming a better runner. With that in mind, I wouldn't lift heavy weights before going on a long run because running is my priority. I want to make sure my legs are fresh because hitting the time or covering the allotted distance is the goal. And I will follow up with weights that support that goal. Alternatively, if we look at the other opposite end of the spectrum, and let's say my overall goal is to obtain an aesthetic as a bodybuilder, I'm going to start my workout session with dynamic stretching, maybe a warm up that increases my heart rate, but reinforces fast twitch muscle activity like jump rope, wink, wink, and then end my session with cardio that could be beneficial. Because in this scenario, our training priority would be hypertrophy or muscle growth. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't and you want to flesh it out a little further, let me know and we can explore it in another episode. And now I want to switch gears here and move on a topic that I typically only run into at the beginning of the year. And that question is, what is the best gym? You can ask 10 different people and get 10 different answers, but I want to focus on something more nuanced instead of debating what can be considered the best gym. I want to talk about what you should be looking for when you're choosing a gym. And as everything, this recommendation is rooted in my number one priority, which is safety. If I walk into a gym and it is not clean, it can immediately be disqualified from consideration of gyms that I would recommend to train at. And cleanliness is not limited to visible signs of dirt, sweat, things like that. When I'm surveying a gym, I'm looking to see if are the spray bottles and wipes for the equipment frequent and accessible throughout the space. Does each piece of equipment have a designated place to retrieve and return to after its use? Because people are more likely to wipe down their equipment if there's somewhere to return it, as opposed to having no place. They're more likely to leave it laid out on the floor. And then in that regard, now we're putting people at risk for tripping over things. And again, if we think about the bigger picture, the gym is a place where we're all breathing heavy, sweating in close proximity to one another, which increases the opportunity for the transmission of bacteria, virus, COVID. Wasn't that long ago, so I'll leave it at that. Cleanliness is the most important feature I'm considering if I'm looking to join a gym. After that, I'm probably, checking out the vibes. Are the people considerate of the space? Are they taking care of the equipment properly? Are they actually working out, or are they just taking up space? I hate people who go to the gym and scroll on social media all day, because they just take an hour on like one piece of equipment. I'm trying to get on a machine, which is another thing. Are there a lot of machines? Are they well spaced apart? I can't stand when I'm at the gym and the equipment just sits on top of each other. I actually prefer to work out in an empty gym. Gyms that are crowded at every day of the hour, no thank you. But I won't go off on a tangent today. I'll move on to the last question I mentioned, which is, should I get a personal trainer? This is a really good question, because I wouldn't give everyone the same answer. I don't want to get too deep, because I think there's a broader conversation I want to have about personal trainers in another episode, but I'll try to keep it simple. There are certain characteristics that I believe can make someone a better candidate for personal training. I'll name maybe like top 3, and I'll start with training age. Training age is probably the biggest determining factor for success along your fitness journey. It's basically a moniker that quantifies how long you've been training. So if you started your fitness journey last year, your training age is 1. Versus if you started your fitness journey in, let's say, 2010, stay consistent throughout the years with regular, physical activity, no major health issues, no major breaks that impeded your physical fitness, your training age would be 16. So people younger in their training age are more likely to need guidance at the start of their fitness journey, because again, it's new. And remember, we want to optimize for safety. So we don't want to engage in anything dangerous if we don't have the proper knowledge or the proper guidance. Let's say you're a little bit older in your training age, but you're trying something new. So let's say you were a gymnast for several years, but you want to become a marathoner. Now, if you are trying a mode of exercise that you have less familiarity with in regards to how to get started, what's the right equipment, etc., this would be another good reason to look toward getting a personal trainer. In this scenario, you may have a very specific goal, and it would be beneficial to get guidance from someone who specializes in that training practice. And personal training has evolved, so much. There are people who only train bodybuilders or only train triathletes. Pick your performance, and there's a trainer for everything. So seeking out someone who is well-versed in helping you achieve your specific goal is another good reason to get a personal trainer. I would say the last really good reason to get a personal trainer would be if you need the motivation. And in this regard, you got to be honest with yourself. I know there are some people out there who are like, I only got a personal trainer because I hate wasting money. And I know if I had to pay someone to train me, I'm more likely to go than if I were to try to get up on my own. And I would be the first to tell you, personal trainers are not cheap. So I guess the potential for letting someone down who is depending on you to show up, and money, those are great motivators to working out for a lot of people, and another good reason to get a personal trainer. I hope this episode answered a few of the questions you may have been considering as you look to begin or restart your fitness journey. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and you want to join the Fit Click, hit the subscribe button and tune in next week as we continue to set a strong foundation for our fitness journey. Thank you for listening. This is Coach Teal signing off, and I hope you can end your next workout saying, that workout was worth sweating out my edges.